Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, a few videos ago, or it may have been in a live stream, I mentioned that one of the things that we should take away from that shutdown of the pipeline on the East Coast is not that people panic buy whenever there's crisis. It's not that we are very reliant on fossil fuels, but I felt that the biggest thing we should take away, and still feel, is how vulnerable we are to outside forces that want to hurt us here in the United States. We live in a technological world, and it is becoming easier and easier for people who are trained in cyber attacks to attack our infrastructures. Now, this article here mentions if the trucks stop running, it won't just be a gasoline shortage that we are facing. And this article is not just about if the trucks stop running, but it's bringing to light the point that I was trying to put out, and that we are vulnerable to outside attacks to our infrastructure via the internet, via cyberspace. And here it says, our enemies now understand that you can completely paralyze America by taking out just a handful of pipelines. Even though all of us knew that any gasoline shortage were just going to be temporary, the shutdown of the pipeline caused a frenzied wave of panic buying. And I even saw some videos, ladies and gentlemen. The one that is most relevant that I couldn't believe. I thought that maybe it was some kind of a hoax. But there was this young lady filling up a grocery bag. You know those little cheap plastic grocery bags that you get at Walmart or wherever you go shopping? Filling one of those up with gasoline, and then putting it inside of another grocery bag and tying it off and putting it in her trunk. I was just amazed at what humans would do when faced with a crisis such as the one that we went through in the East Coast here a few days ago. It continues to say, but if something caused the gasoline to stop flowing for a longer period of time, not being able to fill up our vehicles would be among the least of our problems. Trucks need gasoline too. And if our trucks stopped running for an extended period, it would virtually paralyze every part of our society. Now, I understand, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are very keen as to what is said and what I read. I understand trucks need diesel for the most part, right? Most trucks use diesel. However, pretty much same concept. Most Americans don't realize this, but we are completely and utterly dependent on our truckers. Without them, our way of life would quickly cease to exist. We hardly ever hear anyone give recognition to the hard-working truck drivers that are cruising up and down our highways day after day. But the truth is that they are absolutely critical to our success as a nation. And although we may not think that something like a gasoline shortage would affect truck drivers, it will. It just depends on how long it goes for. And as I mentioned before, our technical or digital infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen in the past, is very culpable to outside attacks. And this is one of the things that we have to prepare for. It says here, prior to this month, most Americans couldn't have even imagined a scenario in which all of our trucks suddenly stopped running. But the cyber attack against the pipeline has exposed how deeply vulnerable our most sensitive infrastructure really is. According to the American Petroleum Institute, there are more than 190,000 miles of pipeline that carry liquid petroleum in the United States. And it says here, more than 190,000 miles of liquid petroleum pipelines traverse the United States. They connect producing areas to refineries and chemical plants while delivering the products to American consumers and businesses. Pipelines are safe, efficient, and, because most are buried, largely unseen. They move crude oil from oil fields on land and offshore to refineries where it is turned into fuels and other products. Then from the refineries to terminals where fuels are trucked to retail outlets. Pipelines operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't think people understand the grandeur of what it is that it takes to keep America running when it comes to energy. I am all for solar and green energy. You see my videos, I've got like 12 or so solar panels, and I plan on adding on. And I've got a mess load of solar generators, and I plan on adding on to those as well. However, ladies and gentlemen, we need biofuels. I don't see any way in which the United States can go completely green. We do not have the manufacturing capacity to build all of the solar panels that we would need in order to go completely green. Wind turbines have shown that they're not very efficient, as it takes an immeasurable amount of energy to build one and place it, and then they don't have a very long lifespan. In order to build solar panels, we have to mine precious metals. In order to build batteries, we have to mine precious metals. All of these things take energy. Normally, we don't think about these exceedingly important pipelines, but now we have seen what can happen when a single one of them is shut down just for a few days. The Colonial Pipeline is one of the most important pipelines in the entire country. It can carry roughly 3 million barrels of fuel per day. And of course, we all know by now that it runs 5,500 miles from Houston to New York. And without the Colonial Pipeline in operation, things got really crazy quite quickly. More than 10,000 gas stations were completely out of gas on Wednesday, and there was widespread panic in major southeastern cities such as Atlanta. So what would happen if the gas stations had no gasoline for weeks or months? Can you imagine what our society would look like? There are several ways that such a possible scenario could unfold. Now that our enemies have seen the chaos that a cyber attack can cause, they could potentially try to hit multiple pipelines with cyber attacks simultaneously. Or they could try to knock out multiple pipelines all at once. There is no way that we could possibly protect 190,000 miles of liquid petroleum pipelines, and so they would be very easy targets. A massive solar storm is another potential danger. An electromagnetic pulse that is large enough could fry electronics from coast to coast. Experts have been warning about this for many years, but very little has been done to harden our electrical grid. Scientists tell us that there have been many such solar storms before, and they also assure us that it's just a matter of time before the next one comes along. Here in the United States, the largest geomagnetic storm currently on record happened in 1859, and we all know that as the Carrington event. These are just a few scenarios that could cause our gasoline to stop flowing for an extended period of time. And if the gasoline stops flowing, our trucks stop running. Alex Friedman is a transportation expert that has been sounding the alarm about what this would mean for our country. And Ms. Friedman goes on to warn us that within a week, in roughly this order, grocery stores would be out of dairy and other items that are delivered many times a day. And by the week, the shelves would be empty. Hospitals, pharmacies, factories, and many other businesses also get several deliveries a day, and they'd be running out of stuff the first day. The second day, there's panic and hoarding, and restaurants, pharmacies would close. ATMs would be out of money, construction would stop, there'd be increasing layoffs, increasing enormous amounts of trash not getting picked up, 685,000 tons a day. Service stations would be closed, very few people would be working, and the livestock would start to be hungry from lack of feed deliveries. Then within 2 weeks, clean water supplies would run out. Within 4 weeks to 8 weeks, there wouldn't be coal delivered to power plants, and electricity would start shutting down. And when that happened, about a quarter of our pipeline uses electricity. And so natural gas plants would not be fed natural gas, and they'd start shutting down. This is what we would have to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a coronal solar mass ejection or an EMP. It could just be a matter of a coordinated effect that takes down our pipelines that deliver gasoline to where we need it. And ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and interject for those of you that have electric vehicles. All right, that's great. If you have an electric vehicle because you got one because you wanted it, that's great. All right. However, you have to understand that if there is no delivery of gasoline, then eventually your electric vehicles will not be able to run unless you have a very large solar array that can charge that vehicle. And I would venture to say that that's not many electric vehicle owners. You have to understand that the way that our power plants are currently fueled is with natural gas or oil or coal. And how are those things moved to those power plants? Mostly by rail or trucks. And what do rail or trucks use? They use fuel in order to run. She continues to say here that basically our society would descend into complete and utter chaos. Don't think that it can't happen, because it most certainly can. The nightmare that we witnessed in Texas earlier this year showed us how vulnerable our power grids are. And now we have seen how vulnerable our pipelines are. Our infrastructure has been neglected for decades, and now it is crumbling all around us. It says here, every time our infrastructure experiences some sort of catastrophic failure, millions of Americans are deeply affected. Soon, this temporary gas shortage will be over, but please take it as a warning. We are far more vulnerable than most Americans ever realized, and it is just a matter of time before our enemies decide to take advantage of that. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we must continue to prepare. Because we just don't know what tomorrow may bring. We just don't know what nefarious acts our enemies, be it abroad, foreign, and or domestic, may have up their sleeves. I've stated this several times, and I'm going to state it again. There's two things that is very important, I feel, for us to do. The first thing is that when we use our hard-earned dollars to purchase things, that we should purchase things that bring value to our lives. Meaning that if the lights went out today, what in your house brings value to your life at that time? Will a flat screen TV bring value to your life? Probably not. Does a solar generator bring value to your life should the lights go out? Does an extra 5-gallon cans of gasoline bring value to your life should a pipeline, go down for an extended period of time? And the other thing is that it's never too late to start. If you're not preparing, get serious about it and build up your preps. Become your own infrastructure. So consider all of the infrastructures that you depend on today. Water infrastructure, right? You depend on water to be piped and pushed through your pipes so that you can turn it on at your faucet and water will come out. If you depend on that, then make sure that you have a way to store water, and make sure that you have a way to turn water that's not potable into potable water in case you run out of your stored water. Electricity is an infrastructure that we all depend on. So what do you do to mitigate the electricity or power going out in your area or nationwide? Have some kind of backup power. I've always recommended that you start with a regular generator, a small generator that can run the essentials in your home for a limited amount of time, as long as you have gasoline. But I also recommend solar generators and or a solar array, if you can get one, with batteries attached to it, and of course a charge controller and a good inverter. Just become your own infrastructure. Look at those things that you rely on and then reproduce those things at a micro level. Having said that, thank you very much for joining in. I hope you get something out of this. I'll go ahead and leave the link to this article at the bottom of the description of the video in case you want to revisit it. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I am out.